Welcome back, friends. It's Paul Thompson. I'm here with my good friend, Steve Autrey, and we are on Thursday, and we're getting ready for Sunday. We're getting ready for the Sunday, November 19th, looking ahead at a couple of scripture passages that have to deal with the theme of gratitude, the theme of thanksgiving. And I think today we're going to focus in on the passage that Steve is going to be preaching from on Sunday, from Deuteronomy chapter 8. Steve, introduce us to this biblical story that you want to share with your congregation on Sunday.
Yeah, we don't usually preach much from the book of Deuteronomy.
Nope.
It is one of the books of Moses. It's when Moses is given the law that God has given to him back to the people of Israel. And so we often look at Deuteronomy as one of those headache books. Like, oh, if you've ever read the Bible through, you know, there's certain books that read better than others, and Deuteronomy can be kind of tough to read. It gets pretty dense along the way, but doesn't mean there's not lots of really good stuff in the book of Deuteronomy. So I'm going to read this scripture. It's Deuteronomy 8:7-18, where the word is this: for the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with flowing streams, with springs and underground waters welling up in valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land where you may eat bread without scarcity, where you will lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron and from whose hills you may mine copper. You shall eat your fill and bless the Lord your God for the good land that he has given you. Take care that you do not forget the Lord your God by failing to keep his commandments, his ordinances, and his statutes that I am commanding you today. When you have eaten your fill and have built fine houses and live in them, and when your herds and flocks have multiplied, and your silver and gold is multiplied, and flocks have multiplied, and your silver and gold is multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, then do not exalt yourself, forgetting the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, who led you through the great and terrible wilderness, an arid wasteland with poisonous snakes and scorpions. He made water flow for you from flint rock. He fed you in the wilderness with manna that your ancestors did not know, to humble you and to test you, and in the end to do you good. Do not say to yourself, my power and the might of my own hand have gotten me this wealth. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, so that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your ancestors, as he is doing today.
Yeah, man. So, Steve, where are you going with that? It's a reminder that God is saying to the people called Israel as they come into the promised land that, hey, you didn't make it here on your own. This was not your doing. This is by my hand. So where are you going with that?
Well, that's why I've got you, because you just went there.
Yeah.
You ask a question and you answered it. So I'm
No,
grateful
that's
for that.
a good lawyer never asks a question that he doesn't know the answer to. So I'm
Is
not a
that
good
it?
lawyer.
What about a good preacher?
Yeah, I'm not a good preacher either, but I'm married to a good lawyer. So
Yeah, there you go. Um, no, I think that this idea that, yeah, you don't get there by yourself. And that is one of the myths that we live by in America, the idea that you can be self-made. I remember reading a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And what he does in that book is explore people who we would call are uber successful, Bill Gates type people. Um, and he goes through and he tries to figure out how did they become outliers? How did they outperform? And to a person, each person that he deals with, they say they were lucky, they were fortunate, they were in the right place at the right time. They did work hard and they did take advantage of what was in front of them, but they all say they couldn't have gotten there on their own. And I think even that Bill Gates thing is interesting, because we often think of Bill Gates as, you know, he created Microsoft and all, you know, the big part of the computer revolution is he led that in many ways. But, you know, one of the things that Gladwell points out is, well, Bill Gates happened to be in Washington. He happened to be close to one of the first computer labs. He happened, because of connections and relationships, have access to that computer lab. So he was able to go and do programming before anyone else could. And that's part of what gave him an advantage. So it's that idea that, no, we don't get here on our own. None of us do.
It is a recognition, I think, all of us, that, all of us have gifts and talents. All of us have really remarkable capabilities. But the fact is that none of that is of our own making. Everything that we have really is a gift from God. How we respond is a response to God, how we use that gift. So, I think about our calling. I think about the people in my life. I walked into in high school, I walked into a drama debate room, looking for an elective to sign up for that I didn't want to do some of the other stuff. So I walked into this room. This teacher took me under her wing and really helped me develop in all of those ways. I did a lot of drama, did a lot of debate in high school, had no idea, had no clue that all of that was going to prepare me for what came down the road. All of that training really has come into good use as I've tried to be a pastor through the years. And I think about the work that God was doing in me long before that. Did I have a little natural ability in that? Maybe a little bit, but it was all God. It was all that God had given me. So recognition that we are simply products of all that God is pouring into us. And that's a good reminder, that book.
Well, and I think, thinking about some of the issues that face the world right now, just how fortunate where you are born, how much that determines what will happen in your life.
Yeah.
And the gratitude to just know that, if I'd been born somewhere else, I may have had a very different outcome. I think about those folks who, we know we have war right now in Gaza and in Israel. And so many people are in desperate straits just because of where they happen to be born. Ukraine and parts of Africa that are in conflict right now. It's just heartbreaking. So yeah, it does matter that we are given things that, we can take advantage of them. We can make the best of them, but it starts with a gift. And the idea that we even are alive, that we have a life, that's something that does not come from us. We're not self-made. We're not self-starters. We originate in who God is, which is a pretty remarkable starting point.
So the ancient Israelites, as they make their way into this promised land, was so interesting to me. The southern part of what we know today as Israel is pretty rocky. It's not great fertile soil. But the further north that you go, Israel today has truly become an agricultural centered land. So much of produce that is used throughout the Middle East, a lot of it now comes from Israel, because they really have all of those things that Deuteronomy talks about. They have a great land, and they have these valleys and these places that can grow and raise crops.
Well,
it's
right.
a quite remarkable land.
And geography, it really matters.
Mm-hmm.
About, our own, one of the things we, like the United States, how we are blessed with an abundance of waterways, natural harbors, plains that can be farmed, lots of farmland.
Mm-hmm.
Those things, they came from God.
Yeah.
When
We
nobody
didn't
got there,
manufacture those, right? Yeah, there's always the cooperation that we have going along with God. God's not going to just typically drop stuff in your lap just out with no work. But when we cooperate with the goodness of God, man, remarkable things can happen. And they did happen for Israel. They did go on to inhabit that land. They prospered in that land. There was so much good that God had in store for them in that land.
Mm-hmm. Well, but it does all get back to it originates with God, flows from God. And I think then when you know that, when that becomes your reality, then you can hold on to the gifts you've been given loosely. In other words, don't hoard them, right? We are a pass through for God's blessing. God gives us stuff so that we blesses us, and so we can bless others. That was part of the original call to the people of Israel. I will bless you so that you can be a blessing to others. And when we start to hoard things, it doesn't go well. We are to steward, not hoard. And I occasionally have caught some of those episodes on TV of hoarders where people hold on to things and these
Sickness.
they have outside value in their mind, so they won't throw away an old newspaper, or magazine, or even garbage, and they pile it up in their houses, and they end up just really barricading themselves into a hellish life, and they lose sight and perspective of what really matters. So it is a balance of sorts, but the idea that we receive freely, we give freely.
Well, I tell you what, I think you're going to have a good sermon on Sunday. I'll have to.
People over here are hoping so. They've been struggling. They've been struggling with me lately.
Well, thank you for joining us for today. Just a little preview of what's going to happen on Sunday at Denver, and join us tomorrow, and we'll talk a little bit about what's going to happen at Huntersville on Sunday. Thanks for joining us.
Tomorrow.